Welcome to week 3, episode 3 of the Investment Competition Podcast, Trial by Fire. This podcast is about the individuals in this video call right here learning about stocks and trading and how to invest. And this is our journey that we're doing a trial by fire. Where as we learn, we've turned this into a competition, similar to a fantasy football for stocks. But the difference here, amongst other things, is that the overall loser at the end of this 52-week long competition agrees to walk across fire. So there are some mildly high stakes here. I appreciate everyone committing to that. This is week 3 here. So I do want to take a moment and just kind of review last week's trades or picks, your investments here. And hopefully up on your screens right now, you can see my fancy little tracker here. Overall, most of us did good, with the exception being I did not end up in the green, and Faith really did not end up in the green.
Stripper Rick.
So we said that the loser of the week agrees to do a shot here. So Faith, are you prepared to take your losing shot here?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Again, this is not to encourage the abuse of alcohol. This is kind of a punishment for losing, trying to kill those weaker brain cells. If you have a drinking problem, we don't need to advertise it here. If you need help, there will be some additional resources for help posted in the description when the video is posted to the internet.
Seek help.
Yeah. But with that, Faith, you ready here?
Mm-hmm.
Proud of you. Any regrets or final thoughts on your pick last week?
It might be down now, but my hope is that it'll be up by the end of the year.
Okay.
Long-term thinking.
Long-term thinking. I like that. All right. Like I said, you guys, I've been working on this a little bit in the background here, trying to make it a little better for everyone. So I want to get started and jump right into this week's picks. The past 2 weeks we've been going in the same order, so I figured why switch things up. We're gonna stay in that order of John, Jacob,
Matt.
yeah, John, Jacob, David, Faith, Mike. And so I added some information here. If you're looking at your screens, you can see my overall portfolio for the 3 weeks that we've been doing this. My pick this week is Rivian, Rivian Automotive LLC. The stock ticker is RIVN. I got in at $10.60. They gave me almost 9.5 shares here. Current price, I mean, this is the matter of like a couple of hours later. But it's the first time I'm showing green on the screen here. So, but also what you'll see is that my last 2 picks are still in the red here as of current prices, and that the overall stock portfolio, if you look all the way to the right side, is $297.60, and that's out of $300 because we're doing $100 each week. I chose Rivian for a couple of different reasons here. We haven't done a whole bunch of like intros or explanations on who any of us are or what our experiences are. But I've been messing around with like the stock market and like trading and stuff since I don't know, Robinhood became popular. Back in like 2019, I think I created an account, started messing with stocks. And I've never learned anything. But at one point I did invest in Rivian. I want to say that was like 2021, and I got in at like $12 back then. And maybe like a year ago, it hit a high of $25. And I'm like, you know what? This is the highest Rivian has ever been. So I sold out at $25. And then as you can see, it is no longer at its high point. It came back down to like $10. If you're looking at any of the charts right there. And there's a couple of reasons for that. So Rivian is an electric automotive company. They're not nearly as big as Tesla or anything like that. But they do produce a couple thousand vehicles every year. Especially in like the SUV and truck lineup for electric vehicles. And that is their only focus, is electric vehicles. So they don't do any hybrids, they don't do any gas or diesel vehicles or anything. It's just strictly electric vehicles. They do have a manufacturing plant in Illinois, so not too far from us. And then one of the reasons that Rivian hit that high point of like $25, a little more than a year ago, is because Amazon did a contract with them where they bought a crap ton of Rivian vehicles to put in their Amazon delivery fleet. And Amazon took a pretty significant investment and ownership of Rivian. So that's one of the reasons I have no problem getting back into Rivian. Is that like it hit a low point. I do believe that this can go back to $25. I do think it can go higher than $25. And one of the reasons I think that is because Amazon invested in it. And Amazon isn't good at like short-term investing. I don't know.
Why would you buy it if you didn't think it was profitable? Like, do you think
Because
it's going to come back?
I think it can be profitable. That's why Amazon took an ownership stake in it. And the problem currently on why Rivian crashed is kind of twofold in that like they've always kind of under-delivered in what they said that they were going to produce on the manufacturing line and then sell to customers. And then the other reason that the stock for Rivian crashed so high is because a bunch of stockholders just sued Rivian because they said that the price of Rivian was overpriced. So I think if Rivian gets back up to that $25 that they used to be at, then the lawsuit becomes moot, or they settle the lawsuit and and they just brush it under the rug. But between the lawsuit and kind of underperforming on the manufacturing line and selling, that's why their stock price is so low. But I don't think Amazon makes bad investments. So I think this is going to be a longer journey. I don't think this is going to win me next week, but I do think this is going to be part of my winning portfolio here.
Do you think that like did they change ownership or did Amazon come in and like take decent part ownership of it, or was there any changing of the old guard that may have caused the issues?
Not in any like from what I could find, it didn't seem like too much leadership change. Like Amazon just has like an ownership stake in it. I don't know how much like they're calling the shots behind the scenes or anything like that, but Amazon's invested in them being profitable in the future and being, successful. So
that was one of your key things to bring you to that decision was it was low. Amazon just pumped a shit ton of money into them, and you think it's gonna take off a little bit further up the road there?
Yeah, well, and I think the lawsuit brought the price down unnecessarily, because they're like, hey, the stock used to be, $20, $25, and then we all bought the stock at an inflated rate. Well, it's not an inflated rate if it gets back up to that price range again, So I think
Yeah.
this lawsuit caused some like short-term um decrease in the stock value, but I think it's going to
Yeah.
rebound.
Okay.
It's going to rebound either when they settle the lawsuit or it's going to rebound when the lawsuit becomes moot.
Okay.
So, the lawsuit was just filed in like April or something like that too. So again, it's relatively recent.
Maybe you said it. Sorry. Who filed the lawsuit?
Undisclosed shareholders, people who bought stock in Rivian and said that they bought it when it was overvalued because Rivian overpromised and underdelivered on their manufacturing line and on their sales front.
Okay.
But again, I don't know any automotive company that doesn't overpromise on the manufacturing and sales line and then underdeliver, Tesla has historically done that and was at one point worth had a market cap of over $1 trillion. It's now half that. They're only worth like 500 billion. But like that's Tesla's fucking motto. I think Rivian can amplify a small fraction of that.
Hopefully.
You don't think that Amazon putting money behind Rivian is just like their social justice stance and not they actually believe in what Rivian is doing?
No. Again, like, yeah, Amazon probably they definitely have like a social justice stance, right? They want to be perceived good for reasons, and for whatever reason, social justice is like good, but not only did they take an investment in ownership in Rivian, they contracted Rivian vehicles for their fleet. They're the largest contract for Rivian to date. So like if you're putting vehicles into your fleet, if you own a company and you need delivery vehicles, you kind of want vehicles that are going to get the job done. For a decent price. You want high quality
How much
at the
of their
best price
fleet
you can
are
get.
Rivian vehicles?
Oh, dude, so I mean that would require me to do more research into Amazon, but that's such a hard.
So to answer my first question though was, so is Amazon just doing business with Rivian as a social justice cause rather than they actually see this being a profitable company? Because if they're putting their money behind the company and then they said, yep, and we're going to have a fleet for Rivian too, but it's 200 of their 600 million vehicle fleet, you know what I mean? Like if it's only 200 vehicles they're pulling from Rivian, that's not a lot of confidence in Rivian, right?
Okay, so their contract was for like a utility van from Rivian, right? So like the delivery from the warehouse to your house
Right.
is the Rivian or could be a Rivian vehicle. But like Amazon had fleets of vehicles before they bought Rivian vehicles, and like you also have to remember Amazon has like an Amazon Flex driver where I can like go sign up and partner with my own personal vehicle and deliver for Amazon. And then you have the actual like, the diesel like semi trucks that like warehouse to warehouse or manufacturer to Amazon warehouses or something like that. I could not tell you what fraction Rivian vehicles make up of their fleet. I can't say it's significant for Amazon, but it is significant for Rivian.
Rivian finally ended its exclusivity agreement with Amazon last month, enabling it to sell to other customers. This is December 14th, 2023. Now the average cost of that van is $86,325. It can go up to $90.
That's okay. So that's getting into some nitty gritties, right? So Amazon
sorry.
got some ownership of Rivian like a year and a half ago. Well, probably closer to 2.5 years ago or some shit like that. And that's when the Rivian stock price went up significantly. But like with them taking an ownership share of Rivian and with them contracting vehicles, their utility van that they designed for Amazon delivery vehicles was exclusive for Amazon. Rivian could not take the utility van, the electric utility van that they designed for Amazon and then sell it to any other party, individual or business. And so
after
so
that,
what you just said is that portion of the contract ended last month. So now they have a new SKU that they can sell on top of their SUVs, on top of their trucks. They can now add on the utility van and sell it to other businesses and other individuals that want to purchase it. That's a net positive
sorry for getting into the
for
nitty-gritty.
Rivian. Huh?
Sorry for getting into the nitty-gritty.
Yeah, I'm not trying to
Yeah,
give you too
dude,
much of a hard time. I was just, probing a little bit.
Yeah,
Probe.
I've liked Rivian for a while. I like that they're a Tesla competitor and that they're focused on not just like producing vehicles to sell, but that they've niched down into like one genre, I think that gives them a nice competitive advantage.
Would you buy one?
Oh my God. If you look at their SUVs and at their trucks on TikTok, their marketing sucks. So that's a huge thing that Rivian should dump money into, is like getting better marketing. But absolutely, if you look at their vehicles, I would probably buy one. And we live in Wisconsin. Electric vehicles historically don't fare weather in cold weather. Like the cold weather shortens battery lives and stuff like that. The technology isn't perfect yet. But their vehicles are nice. Like you think top line luxury SUVs or anything like that, what you probably think of the Escalade, you think of maybe like the new Chevy Tahoes and things like that. Like those are slick vehicles. They have a lot of luxury. They got a lot of tech in there. Rivian should be up there, but their marketing just sucks.
Well, if you think about it though, if you're failing your sales, if you're failing to deliver, is it worth doing amazing marketing?
Yes. All right, so
If you're not
this
selling
market,
anything, is it worth putting your name out there so that you sell more?
this company
That
was
was your
founded in
question.
2009, right? So Rivian's founded in 2009. I think they IPO'd or got onto like a stock exchange in 2020, 2019. I don't know. But like you're creating brand new technology. Like their first 15 years of existing as a company was just designing a vehicle that would work and would meet market standards, like, oh, it's gotta, charge fast and it's gotta go for like 300 miles or anything like that. And then you gotta go into like the designing and things like that. They've been focusing on making great vehicles and they have not been focusing on like selling their great vehicles. I think easily in the next 3 to 5 years, they're gonna realize, oh yeah, we need to like have a serious marketing department, and you're gonna start seeing as many advertisements for Rivian as you do Ford or Chevy or things like that.
I think they'd have to really produce.
I
mean,
don't think so.
So you said their major competitor is Tesla. How many Tesla advertisements do you see?
On the freeway.
So many, to be honest.
Actually, I've seen
There's-
pop-ups for Tesla a lot.
There's
Pop-ups, but
two-
not
there's-
advertisements like Chevy or Ford.
No. You don't see advertisements for Tesla
Zoom,
like you do
zoom,
Chevy and
zoom.
Ford because there are two websites dedicated now to advertising for Tesla. And that's Tesla.com and X.com. X.com is just advertising for Tesla.
Right, but
Because
Tesla did great way
because
before
who
he
owns
bought X.
X? It's Elon Musk. What do you know Elon Musk for? You don't know him
Rocket.
for his boring company. You maybe know him for his like SpaceX stuff because he talks about Mars. But honestly, you think Elon Musk, the first thing you think of is Tesla. You don't think about his history with PayPal. You don't think about oh my God,
Maybe not the average person, but I wouldn't say that people here wouldn't think about that.
I tell
Yeah.
people about PayPal and Elon Musk all the time.
Honestly, the two things that I associate with him most are his Neuralink and his internet. Like
Oh yeah.
Tesla's extra.
I think public perception of Elon Musk, you say Elon Musk, you automatically think Tesla.
Well, now you automatically think Twitter X. So,
Yeah,
which
maybe.
I will say, by the way, I noticed last week finally that they changed the name from Twitter to X. It took a while, but they finally changed it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was X for a while, but it was like Twitter in parentheses, and that was just weird.
Yeah.
Mm.
So who's up next?
The same person that's always up next, after me, and that would be, come on.
Where are we going?
We're going to Jacob.
Nowhere in a Ford.
462. Yeah, that's what I have too. Nice. Your numbers match mine. That's good.
No way.
Have they previously not matched yours?
I never said that. I was just making sure.
Wait, where'd you get 162? Oh, son of a gun.
Where'd you get that?
Oh, we skipped Jake. No, we're on Dave.
All right, David, what was your choice this week?
All
there's Dave.
right.
You should get one of those fancy little technical difficulties, like, thingy for the video.
Dude, I'm just gonna poorly splice that part out. I'm gonna video edit that part out.
Come
I
on,
bet
it's
you
part of
will.
the fun.
I bet you will. So, hey guys, my name's Jacob, and I had to pick a stock this week, but
All right,
I was
I'm
busy
gonna
as hell.
interrupt you, Jake. I'm gonna interrupt you, Jake. Are you ready for this?
Okay.
All right. If you had to introduce yourself to a person that you've never met before in a semi-professional setting, how would you introduce yourself?
Well, what is the semi-professional setting? Because I didn't think this video was it.
How would you introduce yourself at a coach's meeting?
At a coach's meeting?
Oh,
Yeah.
there he is.
At a coach's meeting, be like, "Hi, I'm Coach Farnes, and I coach girls high school wrestling."
Okay.
That's
cool.
how I would introduce myself, and then I would inquire on the other person and start listening because that's more interesting than anything. So people
All
like
right.
to be listened to; they don't like to be talked at.
All right. Well, the first, I don't know, 20 minutes was just me talking at you guys, so that's cool.
And we all
So-
listen. You're welcome.
Yeah. So you're a listener, you're a wrestling coach.
And I enjoy long walks on the beach.
Yes.
You setting up a dating profile?
Oh,
Apparently,
How much investment background do you have? Stock background stuff do you have?
I've been investing for probably 8 years, just on the side with just a few $100s, nothing too serious. Obviously, I have a couple of retirement accounts, but I don't actively manage those investments. Let somebody else handle that. I just tell them risky or not risky, and then that's the end of our conversation. But I've dabbled in and out with a few $100 over the last couple of years. Nothing over maybe $1,200, I think. But yeah, no, in and out, researching some stuff, and then that's it.
What's your proudest investment that you've made?
Oh, it was Twitter.
Yeah, what happened?
As soon as I heard that Elon Musk was going to offer to buy Twitter, I quickly went out and bought Twitter at the current price, which was, I believe, 50 some cents under what he ended up offering per share to buy the company for. And so 6 to 8 months later, when everything was finalized, I ended up making 60 some whatever cents per share that I had purchased because he had to pay out all of the investors. So I'm like, shit, if the company's about to go private, I'll be one of the people he's going to pay out. And I made some profit off of it. It felt
You
like
made
insider
money?
trading, but using news articles. So it wasn't insider trading.
You made money off of Elon Musk?
I did. He paid me.
Nice.
That's
right.
my proudest investment, I would say.
Okay. All right. That's funny that your proudest investment isn't this week's investment.
I wouldn't be able to drive that one.
That's to come. That's to come, hopefully.
All right. All right. I'll let you tell us about it. I'm sorry.
So yeah, like I was saying, hi, my name is Jacob, and I had to pick a stock this week. And the stock that I chose was literally off the cuff because I had absolutely no time whatsoever to do any research like I wanted to. So I went outside of my regular strategy on finding a stock that pays really good dividends, and I just went with an impulse choice, and I chose Rumble. Rumble is a video sharing site and a direct competitor to YouTube/Google. They've been in existence for, I think, like 3 or 4 years now. I think 2021 they went public on the market. I think that's when it was. But in my opinion, not looking at like, obviously market share, YouTube owns it. But my opinion is Rumble has a much better outlook from a business standpoint for creators and consumers of the videos. So this was an impulse choice. This was a political choice. This was I like the company and I believe in what they do choice, and not really I'm trying to win this week or the competition choice, because it was just off the cuff quick. So good news though, reality check, they are at a current low compared to what they've been in the past, which means I didn't waste money by buying them at a high point. So they should have room to grow. And with the coming election, they're probably going to get more popular because alternate media sites get more popular, especially with the current candidates. So
Okay.
Those independents looking for something more interesting.
yeah.
So I don't know how algorithms are going to work, but earlier this week, just to put into some context about like the current political sphere, because who knows, maybe 40 weeks from now somebody's watching this video and it's like binge content. But the current political sphere is, earlier this week, Donald J. Trump, a former U.S. president, was found guilty of 34 counts in the state of New York. I'm not gonna go much further into that, but like that's what the current political news is this week.
Can I add something to that for you?
I've avoided certain terminology to make sure that I'm not wrong, but yeah, go ahead.
Just a crazy fact from after that verdict came out. So after the guilty verdict came out, within, I think it was 48 hours, could have been 24 hours, but whichever it is, either a day or 2 days, within that time frame, political donations to Donald Trump were over, what was it, $52 million?
Oh, I think
After
it
the
was
guilty verdict
way
came out.
more than that.
In that hour span, either the day or 2 day, I think it was 24 hours, I think is what it was, but it was over 50 million in donations went to his campaign right after that guilty verdict, which is record setting and ridiculous if you think about the amount of people out there, or even just the big donors. If it was mostly big donors, it doesn't really matter. The fact that they looked at this man and said, they just found him guilty of felonies, 30 some odd felonies, right? And then they were like, fuck the system. We're giving all our money to this motherfucker. Like, damn, And I just used all my swear words for the entire month. This is great.
Yeah. So, you're correct in that I believe you. It's over 50 million, and I think you're correct because you're like under 10x of what the actual number is. I don't have it up in front of me, but I thought the actual number was 500 million. Or something like that, maybe, or maybe it was 500,000. I thought the number was 500.
See if I can find it for you.
Yeah.
You keep talking while I look.
I don't know if you guys
Okay.
remember this, but back in the 90s, we had a president
I
who
wasn't
paid.
too long, didn't read.
We had we had a president who paid $750,000 to a woman to go away, but you know.
Well, I
Alright,
think it's funny.
I'm
and
gonna
I know this might give off too much of my political stance here, but Donald Trump paid a hooker to shut up about their affair. She didn't shut up, and now he's guilty of paying the hooker to shut up about the affair. I mean, somebody didn't do what they
Okay.
were supposed to do, and they were paid to do it.
Hooker
Hang
is
on a
a
second.
strong word. I believe
Sorry, entertainer,
proper
whatever
term
she wants to
is
classify herself as.
Hey, didn't
yeah,
she
former
wind up paying him
professional
money?
adult entertainer.
Didn't she wind up paying him money in a lawsuit?
She had to pay his
I don't
legal
know.
fees.
All right,
No.
I'm gonna circle this back to Rumble.
Yeah,
I'm not
go
gonna
for it.
connect it, but I'm gonna go back to Rumble. I don't know a whole lot about Rumble other than speaking of lawsuits. I think Rumble is getting sued by the UK government.
I'm not surprised. There's another country that tried to ban him too. So
Yeah. So you were talking like YouTube owns the market share and that Rumble is a direct competitor. So I mean, again, I don't know any numbers or anything, but if I was making some apples to oranges comparisons, Google owns like 96% of the search engine market, right? GoDaddy owns like 0.05% of the search engine market. And GoDaddy makes millions, you know? So
But
if YouTube owns, 96% of the market and Rumble even owns like 1% of that, Rumble could be profitable, but
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if Rumble can go own 1% of the market if they're getting banned out of countries or if they're getting sued by countries' governments and not being allowed to operate on the internet in those countries.
I feel like it makes people want to flock to that site though, specifically, especially when they look at the reasons why those countries are banning them and or trying to get rid of them.
Okay, so I listened to some political podcasts. I heard about Rumble through a political podcast, through one political podcast. How did you first learn about Rumble? You said this was like an impulse because you've done zero research about. How did you learn about Rumble?
A couple, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, I knew it was out there, but it was limited on what was out there. People were testing out that market and just starting to get into it and switching over their platform. So there was a handful of podcast videos and political things that I was watching that they were like, yep, you can now watch us on this, and this, and this. And Rumble was one of those things now. And so I looked into it back then, but it was minimal content creators, minimal, stuff on there. And in the few years since then, they've exploded. They've gotten some exclusive deals with some creators. They've gotten some creators exclusively use them for their, income stream, and they stopped using YouTube or they're not allowed to use YouTube.
Any content creators you could name off your cuff that like exclusive to Rumble?
Steven Crowder, he's got his mug club that he does. And he does his own site that you can subscribe to, and I think it goes through locals. And I think Rumble is buying locals, but I'm not sure. But he exclusively he has a deal with Rumble, and so he's one of a handful of Rumble creators. Another one would be what's that British sounding dude? That's gonna bother
The
me
former
now.
rock star? Oh my god, what is his
Yeah.
name? Oh my god, I can picture his stupid fucking voice and face, but oh my god, what is his name?
Russell Brand. Russell Brand does another one that
Yeah.
has an exclusive contract with Rumble. There's a handful
Yeah.
of creators that have gone over there, and they feel like the environment over there to speak freely is more open, so that's why they go over there. And yeah, I kind of like that aspect of it, and so that's why I'm putting my money there. So
Okay. What do you think Rumble stock price could get to?
well, they start at like 12 or something when they first popped out. Let me see here.
If they
So,
ban
and
Twitter, do you think Rumble will pick up?
what's that?
If they ban Twitter, do you think Rumble's business will pick up?
I doubt they would stop. If they banned Twitter, they'd probably ban sites like Rumble as well and other sites like that that, you know, seem more open for communication. So I mean, in the short term, I could see Rumble's price increasing maybe back up to the $8 or $9 mark. Long term, I could easily see it hitting back up into the teens. You know, it was at $13 back in 22, and you know, I think it could go back up. You know, it's seen a pretty big dip, and it's right back around the middle. So it's not at its lowest. It's, you know, kind of staggering around the middle right now, and I feel like there's room for it to jump up.
I got
And I really
another
think this
question.
election is gonna give it a little boost now. So
Do you think during the pandemic it drove a lot of people to Rumble? Do you think
well,
a lot of
what exactly
people?
were the years for the pandemic? Because I'm looking at 22, 23. They kind of had a big, wide up and down in those years. So
Just curiosity.
yeah, as low as $5.90 and as high as $13. I mean, it's a pretty wide range there, you know.
Okay.
All right.
Now they're
I'm gonna hit
up
you
and
with
currently at 6 something.
All right, I'm gonna hit you with one last question, Jake, and then we got to move on to the next person here. Rumble, you got in, it went down a little bit, but it's only been a day. But looking back at your overall portfolio here, your first pick, CVR Energy, is down a little bit, and you almost won with that one, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about what's going on there? Any comments for the good of the group? You just really happy with AT&T?
CVR is probably going to get a boost again with the election. With it being an energy company, I feel like they're going to get a bunch of boosts on a lot of different energy companies. So I'm not concerned about that. Plus, that one's a dividend pick. AT&T, they're up currently, but they also kind of, stay at the same for the most part. They're not one of those that you're going to bank on making a bunch of money on their stock price. I'm banking on their dividends. So I'm still confident with those two picks. Rumble, I'm hoping that I'm hoping the election season pop up, but again, that was an off the cuff choice, and it wasn't really a strategic choice on my part. So
All right. Well, I appreciate it, Jacob. But we are gonna move on to the next person here.
thank John.
Yeah. Who said, "Hey, John"?
No, I said thank God.
Okay. All right, David. Let's get some of your background right now, if you don't mind. If you had to introduce yourself to a stranger, how would you introduce yourself?
It's a wild question because when I think I'm introducing myself to a stranger at my age, I imagine I'm interviewing for a job. So when I'm introducing myself, I like to bring up previous places that I've worked at because those different places give more of a background to who I am than rather what my age or where I live does. So some of the places that I've worked previously was I've worked in a corrections facility for 3 years. I've done fast food work when I was younger, and currently I'm actually working in a paper mill, producing paper. Which, wild would you think it, makes me more money than working in the prison ever did. I was in the military. I recently got out. I left as a sergeant. You would know that because you're the one who brought me in.
Okay.
And as far as my stock experience goes, I really have none. It's nominal, if anything. I probably started looking at stocks the same time that you did when Robinhood got popular. But your age level to my age level then, I had no interest in it. It was just numbers and graphs, and I couldn't wrap my head around it at the time. And as wild as it was, I did do a minimal amount, and I actually had some flash drives from back then that I recorded some stock prices on. And looking at the stock prices that I recorded then, and what the prices are now, I'm actually impressed and concerned that if I had more care or more understanding at the time to invest in things, that maybe I wouldn't be doing better for myself now. So definitely taking the time now to learn, to see what I can do, and hopefully doubling down.
Okay. All right. Good to know. I lost your video here just now. And your mic. I have no video or mic for David.
I think we've been
Sorry
abandoned.
about that. I
Video
was
and mic have
getting
have
yelled at.
been returned. Would it even be a good episode without, you know, like your tech stuff going haywire for a second? All right. So what can you tell us about your pick for this week?
Stack pick for this week. I decided to go with Mastercard, and this was kind of the rabbit hole that I went down last week. I was looking for good dividend stocks. Mastercard isn't very high on that list when it comes to their dividend stock, but they are doing well in their forecast for how their stock price will be. Currently, they're sitting at 442, but by the end of the year, they're expected to get somewhere between 500 and 550. So that type of growth in a year end, buying now where it's lower and then obviously sitting higher later in the year is going to be good for me.
Proud
Yeah.
pet owner right there.
Proud pet owner.
Okay. Who said it was gonna get to 500, 550? Where did you pull those numbers from? How did you come to that conclusion?
Great question. A lot of my stuff comes off of Google and the Yahoo Finance tab. Obviously, as I click through different tabs, the more that I see the same thing, I guess, yeah, you know, I'm falling victim to that. You know, you read it on the internet, it must be true. But when multiple sources are pointing towards the same thing, I like to imagine that there's going to be some truth to it. And historically, looking at Mastercard, where just a year ago they were sitting at $38. So getting up to 40 now isn't too bad. Oh, that's Verizon. That's Verizon. My bad.
Like
Um,
$38. Is it 400 now? What?
Sitting at
What did we miss
373
out on?
last year.
What happened with
I-
MasterCard? They went $30 to 400?
I had the wrong one pulled up. Last year, Mastercard was sitting at 373, and today it's sitting at 447. So
Okay.
apparently, one of the things that I did read up on was back in 2014. Looking for it, the stock did split. So Mastercard went ahead and said, "Hey, our stock price is pretty high, and that's probably discouraging people from buying our stock." So they did a 2-to-1 split. Every two stocks was now. Don't get me wrong, I'm not 100% clear on the stock split thing, but it allows people to purchase the stock at a lower price. I
What?
was trying to figure out for the stock split if that meant that there was now a second Mastercard stock, but I wasn't able to find anything like that. So, yeah.
So do you know what kind of split it was?
In 2014? No, I don't.
Doesn't say it was like a 2-for-1 or anything like that.
Oh, it was a 2-for-1 split. I said
Okay.
that.
So
I thought
what
you were
that
asking
means,
if
what that means in general. So if you bought, stock before the split, okay? Let's say you bought one stock for $50 before the 2-for-1 split. All right. When they do the 2-for-1 split, the company is doubling the number of shares that they have available for purchase. All right. It does not change your current dollar holding. What it does is it takes your one share that's worth $50 and it now says you have $50 and 2 shares. So now that each share is now worth $25 a piece, They've doubled the number of shares that they have available for people to buy. And yes, in turn, it does lower the price in general for the public to now purchase more stocks. So your dollar goes further, but your investment itself doesn't change per se. Your $50 is still $50 of their company. You just now have 2 stocks instead of 1.
Good to know.
Yeah, and I think most companies try and do that to catalyze growth, or to kind of capsize some downward trends or spirals. It is my understanding. I could be wrong on that.
Makes it more affordable for the common man.
Yeah, makes it more tradable, maybe more volatile, or like the opposite, right? You could do a reverse split and get a 1 for 2. So for every 2 shares you have, it's now 1. And what that does is it kind of condenses the number of shareholders and things like that to kind of, again, cap or limit how many people are trying to like trade out or things like that, and get rid of some of more of the high fluctuations in the trading. So okay. Looking at your overall portfolio here, you got 2 in the green here, but you got like your first week pick is kind of massively in the red. So you're not, your overall portfolio is not in first place, and it's not in second place. That first week one is kind of bringing you down a little bit. What are your thoughts?
Historical stock picks. So like the one from last week, Verizon is definitely doing well. It went from the 39 that it was to 41. Typically, we're not typically. Based on what I was saying last week, I'm going to continue to see Verizon stay steady and either grow or just kind of sit where it is at. Whereas something like Recursion Pharmaceuticals, that first stock pick, I don't expect that to grow until the end of the year. Last year, 2023, Recursion Pharmaceuticals had 50 million invested in it by NVIDIA. Now, what was going on is the chip company NVIDIA wanted Recursion Pharmaceuticals to develop their AI, and what their AI is going to do is it's gonna the AI is going to put educated guesses into what vaccinations can be created for what diseases are likely to develop. So in the similar fashion, like how we have a different flu vaccine every year, it's saying, oh, this is going to be the next 50 flu vaccines that we have based on how the virus has mutated and how it will continue to mutate, stuff like that. And it's an AI that's generating different diseases and how they will either evolve or devolve in their genetic form. Obviously, the investment came last year in 2023, but the AI is one of those things that it needs time to be trained up. It takes terabytes worth of data for it to eat and to consume before it can start outputting its own formulas and whatnot. So this one is one of those ones where after it hits the right point where you buy it low, it's going to grow.
Okay. I'm a little confused there. Just like from the very beginning, you started off, you said Recursion Pharmaceuticals is developing the AI, or you said NVIDIA is developing the AI?
Recursion Pharmaceuticals is developing it. NVIDIA invested $50 million into Recursion Pharmaceuticals for the development of this AI.
That just sounds backwards to me, because NVIDIA is the chip
Is
company.
the chip company. Yeah.
Yeah, that just sounds backwards to me. All right, well, but if you're confident in that,
I'm going to read it to you, and you're going to say if I'm maybe misunderstanding it when I read it. So the chip maker NVIDIA invested 50 million in Recursion Pharmaceuticals to speed up the development of biotech's firm artificial intelligence model.
lost your audio. Lost your audio.
So Recursion Pharmaceuticals had $50 million invested in them for the discovery of different drugs and
We lost your audio for a minute. I don't know if you could hear me.
no, what's up?
We lost your audio while you were like reading, and unless that was just
Okay.
me.
No, we all lost it.
Okay, so
Okay.
read your thing again. I'm sorry.
Chip maker NVIDIA invested $50 million in Recursion Pharmaceuticals to speed up the development of the biotech's firm artificial intelligence models for drug discovery. The company said Wednesday, blah, 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 blah. So what they did is NVIDIA invested $50 million into Recursion so that their known viruses and their known drugs could be programmed into the artificial intelligence for it to be able to discover more and to be able to it's the data that they paid for.
Okay. So NVIDIA paid for the data because they're the ones developing the AI.
I don't know. It's kind of an odd situation.
I'm going to scroll
You
down. I'm
also
going to
said
keep reading. Are you ready?
Pharmaceuticals is the biopharmaceutical or the biotech company.
Recursion uses AI-powered models to identify and design new therapies and offers those modules to other drug makers, including Roche and Bayer. Scrolling down, AI models usually require vast amounts of data, typically measured in terabytes, to train them. NVIDIA can then potentially license those AI models on BioNemo, the company's cloud service for generative AI and drug discovery that it rolled out earlier this year.
So it's a
So-
partnership. NVIDIA
It kind of
threw
sounds like a
money
partnership,
at
yeah.
the pharmaceutical company to develop their AI, and in return, the pharmaceutical company said, "Hey, once we get this stuff developed, you can have license over who's allowed to use it." And so it's kind of like a partnership on the two of them.
It does sound along the lines of a partnership, yeah.
Yeah.
I just wonder if it's one hand from each company on the steering wheel, or if there's one hand steering. You know, I'd be wondering who's driving there.
Well, I mean, honestly, the whole thing, the whole company and the whole AI developing this stuff, it sounds like how we got COVID. So I mean, I'm a little like it's a little sketchy if you ask me. I don't know.
Well, obviously the government will start paying them at some time and their stock price will jump then.
Sounds great. Can't wait for my tax guys to go there too.
All right. I'm excited. Definitely not nervous. Great.
Not nervous at all.
New man-made horrors beyond my comprehension. Fantastic.
New AI made horrors beyond our human comprehension.
What's that Steve Buscemi quote from Spy Kids? Do you think God hides in heaven in fear of his creation?
That's from
We're
Spy
gonna be
Kids?
Yeah, it's Spy Kids
Wow.
2, Spy Kids 3, one of the Spy Kids movie. Yeah, it's a great quote. But you're gonna find us hiding on Mars in fear of AI, you know?
Of our own creation.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to add, or Faith, are you there? I don't have video or audio for you here.
Hello.
Hi, Faith.
Hello. All right. So David says he doesn't have anything else to add on what he's got going on here. So I think you're next up to talk about. Well, I'd love to challenge you here a little bit too. How would you introduce yourself to someone you've never met before?
Try not to. I don't know. I'm Faith. That's just me. I'm here.
Hi, Faith.
Okay. I appreciate you being here.
I have cats. I like those.
You like what?
I got cats. I love them.
Was that one of your cats walking in front of David earlier?
They're all mine.
So for anyone like watching in, David and Faith are actually married. And then myself,
What?
Jacob, David, and Mike are all related, biologically. So that would make Faith our sister-in-law. You currently work in the stocks, right? You're an investor, you're a professional at this?
Definitely not. Nope. Don't know shit.
All right. So, how much experience do you have with stocks and trading in markets?
None. I started this to learn.
So you literally jumped in with absolutely no knowledge, but you're married to David. And David's
Yeah.
been dabbling, right? For a
Unhelpful.
few years. Huh?
We argue because I don't understand the way he tries to teach me.
Okay. So either David's not a good teacher, or you weren't previously interested in learning, or both.
Definitely both.
The above.
No, I'm learning slowly here and there. It's hard to pick which stock I want to do each week. That's why I'm like last one always. But
You
yeah,
haven't been though.
well, try to be.
You've only been the last one once, and that was this week. So
Yeah.
okay. So not a lot of experience in like trading or stocks or anything like that. What are some things you feel like you do have a lot of experience in?
Cats. I don't know. I have hobbies. I'm good. I enjoy my
You have
job.
hobbies?
I'm good at my job. Yep.
What's your industry? What's your line of work?
I work in mental health care.
Okay. All right. So that's pretty important.
Mm-hmm.
All right. It sounds like I am just like torturing you here. So I'll see if I can make this a little easier for you. What can you tell us about this week's pick?
This week's pick, I went with Delta Airlines. I kind of have a trend. Started with Royal Caribbean. Now I'm using Delta Airlines. I don't know. I like to invest in things that I'm interested in and things that I partake in. So travel's one that I like to do, especially more recently. So kind of going through the stocks, kind of just looking up the different things that I shop with or things that I put my hard-earned money into already, and kind of look at which ones are doing better than others in the stocks, and just kind of doing a little bit of research there to kind of narrow down what I want to do each week. So yeah, what would Delta Airlines over some of the other airlines just because it's doing better currently, but also consistently is doing better for the most part.
Okay.
Mhm.
All
They
right.
seem to have a good plan going forward to
Is it
continue
up in
their
the air?
investment.
Is that their plan forward, up in the air?
Sure.
All right, that joke didn't fly. My bad. I'll do better next time.
Need some fuel.
All right.
Yeah, those jokes have some serious baggage there, my friend.
All right, can we get one more pun in? Looking at you, David. You got one more
No,
pun
we
for
weren't well packed for this.
Okay. All right, just checking. All right, so you said that you put your hard-earned money into this, not in the stock market, but like actually traveling. So you've flown on Delta Airlines, and that's kind of one of the reasons you looked into them?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to not fly Delta for the sole fact of it's a little bit more expensive than other airlines, and I'm balling on a budget, but I travel, or I like to travel, so that's kind of where I went into the airlines, and based off my research, I decided to go with Delta Airlines in this investment rather than other airlines.
Okay, what other airlines did you look at?
American Airlines is where I started because that's who I tend to travel with. Southwest, Delta, not Spirit because I'm not having a death wish.
You're not traveling with Spirit, or you're not investing in Spirit?
Either. It's a death wish either way.
All right. All right, so we got some love for some Spirit Airlines.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So does the controversy around Boeing have anything to play into your pick here?
I didn't really do any research on it. That's like not easy. So
Okay. I just figured I'd ask because I know they've got some issues, and I know I think the last thing I heard on the news about them is they were supposed to be submitting some sort of plan to the whatever federal regulated body that they answer to, and they submitted it,
FAA.
and they said whatever it is, they submitted it just on time by the time it was due after they had their door blowout a couple of months ago. And they said that the plan was lacking, and that it may not be enough of what Boeing needs to be doing moving forward. So I don't know. There's just a lot of uncertainty around Boeing as a plane manufacturer at the moment, and it looks like Delta Airlines is committed to Boeing Max 10, but they don't expect delivery soon. So I just wasn't sure if that played any part into what you were looking at all.
no, I didn't do any research in that. Mostly what played the biggest impact is just watching the trends of Deltas and like stock itself. But also kind of their plan going forward. From most what I've read is a big part of why they're continuing their success right now is they've been working on their like first class and what's the other word for it?
Business
Like
class?
their first business class experience, and some more people are flying with them in those categories over other airlines because of the experience, and more of those customers flying with them are also getting their like credit card and stuff like that. So that's why there's been a big increase, and they continue to make changes to ensure that increase continues to happen. But now they're also focusing on their main cabin experience to try to get more business there.
Okay.
All right. I'm gonna see if I can ground some of your terminology here. Yeah, that was supposed to be a pun. All right. So you said
Now that that one
looking.
took off.
Yeah, someone needs to like air traffic control some of these comments.
Hey, that was hard, Mac.
All right. So you used the term, or you said the phrase that you were looking at trends. What kind of trends are you looking at? Because it sounded like when you first said trends, my assumption is like maybe you were looking at some graphs, but it sounded like maybe the trends you were looking at based off of what you said were like news press articles or news releases. What do you mean by trends exactly?
In Robinhood, like the graph for like the day, the week, the month, 3 month, year, 5 year, stuff like that.
Okay, so you were looking at graphs,
Yes.
and you were looking at the graphs for all of those time spans?
Mostly when I'm looking at the year down. But I do take a look at all of them. Yes.
Okay. And so you said that was the 1 year, you said it was the 3 month, the 1 month, and the what?
The week and the day.
The week and the day. And you said that like out of all those graphs, just like looking at them, comparing them to other airlines, Delta like had better looking graphs.
Listen, I did this yesterday. I think so. Yeah. But
Okay.
also like looking at Delta has a dividend and none of my other stocks had a dividend yet. It's not a high one, but it's there, something.
Okay.
So looking at that, and then yeah, just based off the little bit of research that I did, they're doing well right now. And they look like they're kind of on the up continuously right now. So yeah.
All right. So what I'm hearing is that when you're trying to find a stock to invest in, you think about like where you're actually spending your money. And then you look kind of in like that industry or in that genre. And then you look at like the trends by like the graphs, how the stock market graphs look for different time spans. And then if the graphs look good, you kind of do some more research to kind of like really convince yourself, that it's going mostly in a positive direction. That's kind of your process. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, 'cause I can read a graph okay, but I don't know stocks. So
Okay. All right. All right. Two more questions for you here. So you said you primarily fly with, you said it was American Airlines?
yeah.
But now you invested in Delta Airlines. So are you gonna consider now flying with Delta over American Airlines? Is how you invest gonna change how you spend your physical other money?
I mean, I'd love to fly Delta, but if you look at the plane tickets and stuff like that, it's a lot more expensive.
So you're still budget minded and balling on that budget.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. That's
Rather
fair.
spend money on stuff on experiences rather than a plane ticket and a seat on a plane.
But if you get that bread up and get it to take off, maybe you'll switch over and be a Delta customer.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right. And then the last question I had for you is looking at your overall stock portfolio. It kind of looks like last week's pick, like you were this week's loser. It's kind of hurting your overall portfolio. You're doing worse than David. Uh, any additional thoughts or input? I know I kind of like got some of your ideas at the beginning here.
From my research that I did last week, Super Micro is hopeful. There's people that are hopeful that it's gonna, for lack of better words, boom. So I'm hopeful within the next year we hit that boom and it won't look like a loser in a couple months, but things get worse before they get better.
Okay. Everybody has those days, everybody has those weeks. But Royal
Mhm.
Caribbean Group, still a pretty solid choice, it looks like.
Yeah,
Pretty satisfied with that?
I am, especially with another one of their Oasis class ships, Star of the Sea, coming back out on the water here over the last week or so. And their Oasis class is one of their more expensive ships, but because it's a larger and meets more of the target audience experience on the ship. So if those things continue to happen, I think this year will be a good year for them.
All right. Awesome.
Despite the person jumping overboard.
Oh, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, this last week, there was a person on their newest ship, Icon of the Sea, that jumped overboard and was missing. So they had to wake everyone up in the middle of the night, and they were searching for this person. And they did find him, but he ended up in the ICU on the ship and did end up passing. So I thought at first that maybe that might have brought the stock down a little bit, but it's not their fault people jump overboard.
I literally do not have an appropriate way to respond. I think it's too soon to be joking.
I don't think any of us have an appropriate way to see any jokes float by for that one.
Yeah, it's too soon.
Why guys don't just dive in?
Apparently it is not too soon. All of my efforts to like gloss over this are just sinking. All right, so thank you, Faith, for your input and for sharing that tragic story. Really changed the mood here. All right, speaking of changing the mood, unfortunately, in the middle of this podcast, Michael had a personal issue that he had to deal with. So I'm just going to kind of share what I picked up from Michael about his stock pick. Give me 1 second here. All right. Before I get into that, Michael's killing it with his overall portfolio. He's in first place for the overall portfolio. And everything he has is in the green. So that's pretty awesome for him, and he doesn't even know it. I don't think he's tracking it like the rest of us are. I could be wrong on that. Before I get too deep here, I know how I would describe Michael. But before I do that, how would you guys introduce Michael to others, or how would you talk about Michael positively to others when he's not around?
I'm questioning why you had to use the word positively in there.
No reason.
Well, Jacob wanted to say something first, so I think he should start with the positive description of Mike.
Well, I mean, hopefully Michael's not watching this episode since he's not attending this episode. He hopefully won't watch it.
He will.
I would say that. I hope not. I would say the best trait about Michael is he's really good at grilling food.
Okay. Is that it? David,
I'm not
how
a
would you
positive
positively
description
introduce
of
Michael to
Michael?
others? We talked over each other.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
did. I said I'm not a sap, so I'm not gonna go into like, oh, he's such a blank kind of person. Oh, you can always blank on him or whatever,
Unfortunately, I don't
Okay.
always think you can blank on him, but in a positive light, he is very passionate about things. So when it comes to something that he's enthusiastic about, he doesn't just, go and check it out. He dives headfirst in. I know as far as stock goes, he's had his trading app for a while, and he has a decent amount of money invested into it, which is very, very confusing because he almost never seems to have money. He certainly has a lot of his hobbies where he's got lots of money invested into it that therefore takes away from his actual money. So he does good for himself, but he definitely jumps all in when he is in.
Okay. Faith, you got anything positive about Michael here? If
Nope,
you had to
he's
introduce
right.
him. Huh?
Nope, he's Mike.
He's Mike. Is he your favorite brother-in-law?
Absolutely not.
Okay, don't sugarcoat it because he might eat it.
That's
All
okay.
right.
I say so.
All
He
right.
doesn't need sugar coated. That might
Okay,
coat him over.
hold on. To be fair though, dude's lost a shit ton of weight in like the last month or two. So good on him. All right.
I
Good on
haven't
him.
seen him.
Because
I've seen
somebody stopped cooking in his home.
Yeah, that topic we're gonna stay away from.
Okay. I see Michael 5 days a week, most of the time. So if he's lost weight, I don't think I notice. It's like you're with someone every day, so you don't notice those subtle little changes. So I'll take you at your word that he's lost weight. I did have a conversation with Mike when we first started the podcast, and like David said, when he gets into something, he really gets into it, and it seemed like he was really excited about this podcast, and he described himself to me when we were talking about this podcast as the smartest dumb person he knows. That's how he described himself. He didn't know I would be asking for people to introduce themselves, but I think that's a nice way to describe Michael because it's his own words. The smartest dumb person I know. He gets passionate. He has a little bit of ADHD, so it can be hard to hold his focus. I'm excited to hold his hand through 52 weeks of commitment and focus. I think he got excited about this podcast for a number of reasons. One, he likes to talk. And two, he's also a little bit of a gambling degenerate. I also share that what's weakness, that vice, that sin. I don't know. So a little bit of gambling degeneracy. This is not investment advice. But yeah. So Michael texted me at again, ADHD. I texted you guys, hey, don't forget to send me your pics on Thursday. And then I texted some of you guys again on Friday, hey, don't forget to send me your pics. And then he's like, oh shit, I forgot. And then he picked one. And then an hour later, he's like, wait, is it too late? Can I change my mind? And that's how he ended up with, he just texted me BHP final. So he didn't tell me what price he got in at. He didn't tell me the stock name or anything like that. He just he got distracted. He got to focus in, and then he went with BHP. I don't know anything about his stock pick other than when I was going in to find out what price he probably got in at and what the current price is. Um, uh, it popped up with a disclosure that it's an ADR. I don't know if any of you have ever seen an ADR disclosure. Okay. Oh
Nope.
my God. So the ADR disclosure, let me quick pull that up and read it here. The ADR disclosure, you guys can still hear me, right?
Yep.
Yep.
ADR is an American depository receipt, represent shares of non-US based companies Banks issue ADRs to facilitate trading on U.S. exchanges. Some banks require investors to pay periodic service fees, typically of 1 cent to 3 cent per shares. So that is something he's added a certain level of complexity for me to track here, because I feel like if he's going to be charged a service fee, that cuts into what would be his total portfolio return if he's getting charged a service fee on top of it. And the BHP price he probably got in at was $59.11 based off of the time that he texted me and when he changed his mind and all of that. And he got a little more than 1.5 shares. So I'm doing some due diligence and some research on like how often he might be charged this. And I think it's based off of the brokerage that he's using, based off of the actual exchange that it's on, and that it's not a US based company. The only other information that I have on BHP is that I'm pulling that up right now. BHP Group engages in the exploration, development, production, and processing of iron ore, metallurgical coal, and copper. It operates through the following segments: copper, iron ore, and coal. The copper segment refers to the mining of copper, silver, lead, zinc, molybdenum, uranium, and gold. The iron ore segment is involved in the mining of iron ore. The coal segment focuses on the metallurgical coal and energy coal. Company was founded on August 13th, 1885, and is headquartered in Melbourne, Australia. The listed name for BHP is BHP Group Limited, American Depository Shares, each representing 2 ordinary shares. And I don't know how much this ties into some of the questions that we were asking last week. But because last week we were asking like what's the difference between exchanges and indexes, and things like that. So I ended up in a rabbit hole down there. I don't know if any of you also looked into that.
I didn't have a lot of time for research this week.
Okay. All right. Nuts and bolts of what I got is that there are 60 main exchanges in the world. There's 2 major exchanges based out of the US, which is the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ. There are a couple of other smaller ones. And again, those exchanges, what they are is the stock exchanges are marketplaces where securities are listed and traded. They provide the infrastructure and regulatory framework for trading activities. And so that's like the base of the pyramid. And then there's some kind of middleman where there's like brokerage firms, both online and physical brokerage exchanges. And then indexes are, it tracks the performance of a group of stocks in a certain industry, or of the overall listed stocks on a certain exchange, if that makes sense. So you can't invest in exchanges. You can't invest in indexes. What you can invest in are ETFs, which generally track different index performances or things like that. or again, they track a different category of stocks like an index would, but it's a vehicle for you to invest in, unlike an index. So that'd be the difference between an ETF and an index. A lot of different things like breaking down some of the terminology kind of like overlaps through the definitions and stuff. I don't know if I explained that super well or if that's clear enough.
It's kind of a complicated subject, I think, because it's like I just did a brief search and it's like you can buy something on one exchange and sell it on another one. So it's really kind of complicated. I don't know.
Yeah, so I mean, and most of the time you're not buying directly from exchanges. You're purchasing through a brokerage. So that adds a level of complexity. And then indexes, are a statistical measure that represents the performance of a group of securities and cannot be directly invested in. And then an ETF is an investable fund that holds a diversified portfolio of assets and is traded on stock exchanges and can be bought and sold like individual stocks. So yeah, there's a lot of like new terminology and things like that I'm learning, that again, I've been dabbling in this since like 2019 that I've never taken the time to consider or learn before.
So I just found something interesting.
Which is?
Robinhood, the investment platform that you mentioned earlier, that when it got popular and you started using it, they're listed as a stock you can buy. You can invest in Robinhood markets. And they were listed on July 29th of 2021 is when they went public.
I
Yep.
looked at that to buy this week.
What's that?
I looked at that to buy this week.
Oh, really? That's crazy.
So yes. I don't totally understand that, other than Robinhood is a public company. Robinhood, the company, offers a service as a brokerage where you can use its platform to buy, sell, exchange stocks, and other like securities and assets. And so because it's a company and it decided to go public, it's now listed on one of the exchanges, and the exchange that it's listed on is also Robinhood as a service is a brokerage for that exchange. So yeah, it sounds like there's some incentive there for Robinhood to promote its public stock because it's the service that it offers.
I mean, to be fair, Charles Schwab is also listed. They're a brokerage too.
Yep. So the companies can be public companies that get listed as stocks. And then, they can, almost anyone could start their own ETF or things like that, where they track the performance of different stocks or things like that. So like Charles Schwab also has a bunch of like ETFs or investment portfolios or vehicles, investment vehicles that you can like invest in, that diversifies your money into different assets and spreads risk out. It's a super complicated system once you.
Yeah.
It's like trying to jump into like pre-calculus without understanding how multiplication works,
I mean, unless those two aren't related, I never took calculus. I don't know. But it's like you can jump into geometry without actually understanding algebra.
Right. But can you jump into geometry, like high school level geometry, without understanding multiplication and division?
Yeah, I think so. How many sides does a square have?
A
There's no
squared plus
multiplying and
b
dividing
squared
there.
equals the circumference of, that's what geometry is.
Geometry is just the shapes.
Geometry is the surface area of three-dimensional and two-dimensional shapes mathematically mapped through formulas.
Well, it's not just surface area. It could be volume. It could be how shapes interact with each other. It could be geometry is a complicated subject. But there are some math fundamentals you need to know in order to get into the nitty gritties.
I suppose.
How many sides does a square have? That's geometry.
All right. All right. I don't have a much better place to leave off for this week. I think that I'm going to
Let's dock this
conclude
ship.
by
Come on.
taking a quick second and explaining that this is a competition with some members of my family. General concept can be summed up as a fantasy football for stocks, where we simulate buying $100 worth of the chosen stock and discuss it as though there is no intention of selling it within a 365-day period for the purposes of this podcast discussion, tracking, and scoring, regardless of actual trading activities. Each week, we will pick a new stock and add it to our respective portfolios. The participant with the lowest overall performance and weakest portfolio at the end of the 52-week long competition agrees to walk through fire or on top of hot coals, provided I can figure out how to do it safely. Full disclosure, we do not know what we're doing, and we've agreed to see what we can learn through a trial by fire. Each of us have different levels of knowledge and understanding of stocks and trading, if any at all. This podcast is not investment advice. This podcast is for learning and to document our competition. Opinions are our own and do not represent the opinions of anyone's employer, past, present, or future. Again, we do not know what we were doing, especially me. I'm not a professional trader, video editor, or social media manager. So if you enjoy this episode or plan on watching more than one episode, I am asking you to invest in us, not with money. I'm asking you to invest in us by hitting that like, follow, and share. To give me any tips or tricks on how to learn to be a better stock picker and trader, how to be a better video editor or social media manager. And also, if you have any feedback, if you post it in the comments on this on YouTube or Rumble, I plan to read every comment, despite reading somewhere that you should never go into the comment section. With that, thank you for your time and have a good night.
Good night, buddy.
Hi, bud.
Right?
Good night.